Hey, girlfriend, I am so glad you are here. We are going to talk about an AI pod crafter tool today that is super cool. And Laurie Hardie, who is a Seattle radio personality, has developed this. She's got over 30 years in the business of radio and now helps women start their podcast because you know what, girls, your voice is enough. Your wisdom, your knowledge, all those beautiful things can come together. You can have a place to have your voice and share that wisdom, not just for yourself. And Laurie, before I introduce you, just to have you say hello, one of the things that I picked up in, because you are one of our resource mentors in our Being Brave Tour magazine as well. And you talked about the words, you said the words you spark today ripple into the granddaughter's courage tomorrow. And how lovely is that? Laurie, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I even started an hour early.
We're so excited to share today. Yes, and I love these brave conversations. And I think one of the things that I really am just absolutely adoring is actually walking through these resources because I'm learning some things about myself. And one of the things that you talked about too is giving yourself permission to use your voice, to use your story, to share that, and to, like you said, to share with our granddaughters. I want to just share real quickly. One of the reasons when I first started Fave, and I started it with a web show. And I thought, okay, I was, the Fave, Fave lifestyles. We'll talk about all the things that we love and want to share with our girlfriends. But one of the things that was in the back of my mind, and my sons weren't married, and I didn't have any grandkids, but I thought, I want my granddaughter to see me as a younger woman. And to use my voice and to share the things that I love or to share my story, because I wasn't sure when I was going to have grandkids, but I knew hopefully that someday I would. And now I have a granddaughter, and I'm building a legacy of these conversations, of brave conversations of women. And so you can share your wisdom and I can share mine as well. So I am so excited about this podcast crafter that you have developed. But first of all, let's tell a little bit of your story and how this all came together for you. And then we'll go into why it's important for women to start their stories or share their stories.
I kept saying your story matters, and your story does matter. But more than that, I think there's a lot of women, it's not about speaking. They're not afraid to speak, but maybe they're not, like, I don't love to be on camera. You do so well on camera because that's how you started Fave and it was a thing. And so some people can be intimidated. And so it's the faceless. And so a lot of people tell me, well, I don't want it to be about me. And here's the thing. Our story is our story, but it's not about us. Because when I became a single mom, I had found out my great grandma was a single mom. And I had heard that she had journals, but we never found them. And I thought how my life could have been enriched knowing what she went through, what she struggled with. Because that's why I wrote my book, to help other single moms. It was before the internet. Because I thought if one woman could resonate with my story, then was it worth the time and effort? Absolutely.
Yes. And, I talk about our stories, not that they just matter. They are worth celebrating. It's the overcoming the struggle that we got through. Girls, we got to give ourselves a little pat on the back because you know what? It is tough. And it's, sometimes we just think, oh, that's what we have to do. This is what I do. But what if that gave another woman that hope, like you talk about, or a little bit of inspiration? It's like, oh, and it's not the circumstances per se. It's the overcoming or how you tapped into something. I remember walking through, some really difficult things. And my sister-in-law kept saying, well, come from a place of love. And I couldn't, it was just hard for me to think that way. But yet, then she told me a story about how that showed up in her life. And so, we tell these stories. And then I thought, oh, coming from that place of love is a place of power, because then you can set boundaries rather than just reacting to a situation and have that pause. And so I learned a lot of little different nuances, and my story was totally different than hers. But when we share that story, we get to tap into those little nuances of the story, like the story within the story, if you will.
And one of the things about when you have people tell their story on your podcast, on your Fave app, is they're coming from a place of not total healing, because we're never totally healed, right? It's circular, but they're no longer in the victim. They're in the survivor mode. And that story, even though it can be exactly the same, sounds different.
Yeah. Yeah, and because we're talking about the hope and the lessons learned, which is sometimes really hard to learn those lessons. And that's, I think, when I'm looking at your resource too, and it's girls, if you get the Being Brave magazine, which is free, I put the link in the comments, and you can go to page 80, and there's all these direct links for what we're going to be talking about. So Laurie, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about maybe a woman. What are kind of some of the things that really hold them up about wanting to share maybe their wisdom, their stories, or even thinking about a podcast, thinking that, do I have anything to say? Yeah. What are some of those things that really kind of hold the ladies up?
So that's the reason I created this, is people said, A, I'm not techie.
Okay.
Because I work with older women.
Yeah.
They say, B, I think a lot of people know they have a story, but they say, who will listen? And you know what I say to that?
Yeah. What do you say?
That's not your business. If you're prompted to tell a story, you're to tell a story so the person who needs it will find it.
Okay.
And in this day and age of internet, so it's techie. And then I hear this a lot. I have too much on my plate. It's too hard. And I remember being at a networking meeting, and somebody I had helped with a podcast was talking to this lady, introducing me. And the lady said, oh, I have a podcast. She goes, oh, and it's so hard. And it takes so much time. And she was, and the person I had helped with the podcast is looking at her going, wow, it was really easy and fun when I did it.
I know. That's what I was just thinking, Laurie, because we spent like an hour, and we didn't even use your new tool that you have.
Right.
Right. And it was actually so much more simple than I thought. I'm like, oh, yeah. I had built up a thing going, it's way too much work. And I think I said that too. Well, I'll be able to do the tech. Well, there's not any much tech to it. They've simplified all the systems.
Yeah. And the two things are, number one, I walk you through it. So I do it with you. You get so much repetition that it's easy. Yeah. And second is, when we decide to step into our dream, when we decide to do the thing, we get sick, we get tired, our car breaks down, something always happens. And almost always when someone shows up for the launch date, something has happened. One lady had fallen and her face was all bruised, and so she didn't want to go live. Like, things happen, and that's normal, because whether you call it an enemy or just resistance, there is always that resistance. And I like to think, how bad do I want it? If something's pushing so hard for me to not do it, maybe it's because there's a message that people will benefit from.
Right. And that's the thing about a podcast or filming or recording or whatever you're doing. A lot of times like you were saying, you share the story, you don't know who it's going to touch. And I had a moment one time that just really kind of gave me a little inspiration. I was filming with someone, and we had somebody come and comment on her story. And they said, you know what, this is exactly what I needed to hear at this moment. And it was a beautiful story of a woman. And, so they resonated with her story, something about it. Yeah. And even when I have filmed live too, when women come up and they pick up different things in the story, people hear it differently. It's like they hear what they need to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that incredible?
It is. Yeah. Because I one time I sat back and I forget who I was interviewing, but two different women came up and I was listening to hear what they heard, but it was different pieces in the story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. That's why we need to share these stories and share them out. And I think one of the other things that maybe in my mind would hold me up is, well, I don't know how to do this, how to create, how do I walk through it? How do I tell my story? And that's also what your Podcrafter does as well.
Yeah. People go, well, you work in radio, it's easy for you. But I had to learn. So I had to learn, talk to one person. I had to learn to hit the road running. Don't waste time with how I'm doing, or like, oh, are you in Bellevue? Isn't it a sunny day? No, you get to the point, there's an accident. Then after you get to the point, then people might want to know more, and they have the option. to bail. If give them what they want, then tell them what they need, and then they learn to know, like, and trust you. And then when it happens that they are ready, they go, oh, I trust her. I've listened to her. So this tool I created does all the things. So it will create your podcast. Now, it's AI, so it's not perfect, but you put the things in and it creates it in the style I would do it, which is start with a question, hit the road running, tell a story, do some teaching, ask a question. And that way, once you get, and Karen, you know this, once you get in the swing of it, you can do it anywhere. You can just open your phone and you can do 2 or 3 at one time. Like for video, you just change your coat, you change your scarf, you do a bit.
Too, girl.
Exactly. And we always have a backlog. And that's the thing. Remember I said when they come, they're sick. The minute they get launched, guess what? They can't seem to do another episode. Oh, by the way, you've already got 10 in the can. So we'll give you a week to freak out and then get back to it. And like I do traffic and I do a lot of stations. So I'll be like, you're never more than 10 minutes away from your next traffic update. I'm Laurie on Cairo real-time traffic. You get used to, you get the flow. But in the beginning, you may have to read a script or do bullet points. Like, it's okay. It's okay.
It is okay.
Right?
So the story is popping into my head. So because you also said, you talked about, a little hugs throughout your resource too, is, it's okay to be yourself and to, those little quirks that you have. Okay. So girls, this may give you a little hope about starting a podcast if you're on the fence about it. Okay. I've been doing this for like 10 years now, talking on camera and all that. And I like it and it's fun. I do have an insecurity though. My insecurity is people's names. So growing up, I was really shy. I mean, I was really quiet. I was more quiet. I wasn't necessarily shy because I still did a lot of things that, but one time somebody came up to me and they asked me my name and I went totally blank. I couldn't remember my name. And so that still sticks with me sometimes. I'm so afraid of mispronouncing somebody's. So I have been kind of sick for about 2 months, girls. And the other day I interviewed a woman. I totally forgot her last name. And so I just had to say, I forget your name, your last name. What is it? Or how do you pronounce it? Because I had it in my head one way and it was Hewitt, which is super easy, but it's spelled a different, different than I had in my head.
Yeah.
I had a moment. So it's like, yeah, okay, here we go.
And you went with it. And I think that's what we kind of learn when we get used to doing it. We're not so scared. And I mean, how many times have we been at a party and we're like, oh, I'd like you to meet my best friend.
I've done that.
Right. So, and the thing I love about this new way of communicating is we can put Post-its up. We can put boards in front of our computer and read bullet points. Like we can remind ourselves of things and make it easier. And some people don't need to edit. Maybe I over edit, but I always think I can edit that out and it gives me the freedom. Like, what if I'm going to sneeze? I don't start over. Or so what if I stumble? We all stumble. It's just like sometimes we're harder on ourselves than we are on others.
Right. And, I think with COVID, that it gave us also permission to have the lawn guys all of a sudden show up in the backyard that you can't control, or the kid running in in the background or whatever. Yes. It's these real raw things that aren't maybe so professionally done, where it's all this perfection. I mean, if you have a podcast and you're just starting out in business or whatever, it's not going to be perfect. No. You're going to have weird lighting, or because you're not going to have all the professional tools or whatever. And you get some as you go along, or, however that looks for you. But yes. So I think the biggest thing that I see as I was reading your resource and kind of walking through. So it brought up stories for me. And I'm like, oh, I got to write down that story, because it was those unique pieces about us. And one of the things that people have always said about me, because I thought, okay, do I have anything to say? Would people listen to me? Because I'm always interviewing people. Mm-hmm. And Okay, now I just lost my thought. Here we go.
No, so this is funny because I often wondered if you would ever do like little solos in between,
Oh,
little
yeah.
Karen stories so we could know more
Oh,
about you.
oh, yes. And so, but what people really gravitate to me with me, and so I do, lives, is my energy.
Yes.
They always say, well, I love your energy. So it doesn't really matter what I say, as long as I say it with some energy and bring that positivity in. And I think
Yeah.
that is my little keepsake, if you will, for people, is to make them feel loved, make them feel special, make them feel energized, and then maybe a little bit of joy to the day. So who knows? I don't even have to say anything important.
Well, Karen said, I don't know what she said, but I loved it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So kind of walk us through the process of this podcraft, or what it takes you through and what that looks like.
So our friend Sonia, who I don't know if you've done the interview with her, but she has a meditation in your book. And she said, oh, honey, she calls me babes. She's from, Wales. You're giving too much away. She goes, I filled out everything and I could do this podcast by myself. And that's the purpose. If you're a kind of caring kind of person where you just get up and you do it, this tool, which I charge for, but we're doing it free in your magazine, can walk you through cover art, title and description, intros and outros, and then your first 10 episodes, actually more. But because sometimes it's like, how do I get started? Now, if you work with me in my big program, I give you a kind of a really quick formula that gives you all the things to talk about. But
Okay.
if you're a self-starter, this is not a workbook. It's a generator. So
Yeah.
did you put anything in?
I did not today. I didn't, but I have. I have previously. Yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so. This is this thing, and I am just so excited about this. Okay, I want to make this point really, really clear that the girls can go to the magazine. Okay, first of all, the magazine's free.
Yes.
Go direct link. You don't even have to give us your email. You can subscribe if you like. So you can get all the future issues. You go to page 80, and then like page 83. There's a link. You just click on that link, girls. Okay. Laurie just said this. This is free in the magazine. She charges for this AI tool. And you have the opportunity to just go test it out. Go see what it's about. If you've ever even thought that you have something worth hearing, worth sharing, worth the wisdom, Laurie is gifting this to you to go try it out.
And the reason I did it is because people will say, well, I don't know what to say. Well, just put a few keywords in, tell me what you want to talk about. Voila, there's a script, there's a bullet point, and then push record, give it a try. Who cares? You can delete it. But it's like, what happens is, this, when you do it, it gets easier until it becomes a habit, and you can just start pumping them out anytime, anywhere. It's that getting started. It's like riding a bike, driving a car, learning to walk. The minute you start to figure it out. Now, if you go through the whole program, I hold your hand, I get on the phone with you, I walk you through platforms to put them on. I do some editing for you. But if you're a self-starter, just go give it a try and realize it's a generator, not a workbook. You don't just put in your answers and go, you put them in, you hit generate, and it gives you your episode. It gives you your cover art.
Yes. And that is, so, I mean, even just to kind of put together some of your key points. I mean, because if you're a woman in business, you know what you teach, you know what you do, but to have it kind of generate that for you, like those bullet points and key talking points, girls, do you realize what else you've got here? With that, you've got a social media post, you've got your speaking, so if you're doing a one sheet, okay, all of a sudden now you have your topics for your one sheet. You've got it all right there in matter of like seconds.
Yes.
I mean, literally, that's how quick it works.
Yeah. And content is content. So use it here, use it there. It's just, and that's what I love about it. And if I work with you on the full program, you come out with this formula that, guess what? After you do 52 podcasts, that's one a week for a year, and you're always 10 ahead. Now you've got a book. All you got to do is transcribe them and find an editor.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Content is content is content.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I mean, I cannot express enough how easy your Podcrafter tool is to use. I mean, just start playing with it, girls. I'm just so excited. I'm already going to the phone going, okay, I want to try it out some more. And because, yeah, and maybe I will do a little Karen episode
Yeah.
and share some of my stories because, we all have lots of stories
And
how
our
they apply.
story, yeah, our story is 100 little stories, right, Karen? It's like
Oh,
we're having women share their stories, but sometimes what do they go? Well, which one? And like I'm Interrupted is my podcast, and people go, well, which interruption? Like our life, our stories are 100 little stories that people can learn from if we're willing to share, even the hard ones. One of my favorite stories from Esther's Place was this beautiful young lady that was helping me. She'd come off the streets. She'd done the Queen It's a New Day. She was really getting her life together. And I only knew her as somebody in recovery that I never knew that other side of her. So we're in Esther's Place. This lady comes in. She's so dirty. She probably slept behind or in the dumpster. And she has the biggest smile. Her name was Mindy, and she's always so smiley. And she walks in, and this beautiful young girl helping me help the women, they see each other and they start screaming and they're jumping up and down, screaming. And I'm just sitting there looking at them and I go, how do you know each other? And they look at me and they say, jail, duh. Like,
Yeah, but they had somebody there that knew him.
yeah, and one that could say, come on, I'm a
Oh,
few steps ahead. I'm just a
yeah.
few steps ahead.
Okay, you know what that reminds me of, Laurie? That is so important. So when you're on your podcast and somebody starts listening, you know what? They come to know you.
Yes.
And that's a voice that they recognize. I mean, you being in radio, that is something people learn to trust you because they hear your voice all the time. I've had women come up to me and say, Karen, I've been following you for like 2 years. And then they'd come and maybe work with me or whatever, come say hi. I mean, I've had people, actually, I was in Sun Valley one time and this girl's like waving at me. And she goes, I saw you. And she's gone, you're my friend. Kind of, and it was like, it warmed my heart. It just that she felt brave enough to come on and say hello. And, I hugged her and it's like, okay, we can be friends.
Yeah.
But it's those commonalities that bring us, and it's in the story
Mhm.
that brings us together that, yeah, a girlfriend maybe knows that she's not alone, that she's not the only person maybe walking through a divorce or
Yeah.
starting a business or feeling the fear or the doubt or the overwhelm, all those things, and, sharing those emotional pieces that really bind us together.
Yeah. And there's so much to validation when somebody says something and you go, me too. Like I'll never forget one of the hardest things about divorce for me was taking off my wedding ring. I don't know why,
No.
but you too?
Yes, I never shared that with anyone, Laurie.
I was talking with a lady and she said the hardest thing was taking off the wedding ring. And I was like, and suddenly that bond was even tighter because that's not something I think we talk about because I don't know, for me, there were, so many years ago, it felt like maybe there was still shame and I felt vulnerable and all weird things. And I don't want to admit that. I'm a strong businesswoman, but it is those things. And it's like, even though we went through those tough times, taking off a wedding ring and the hardness of that,
Yeah,
how will that help other people? It's like, you know what? I can take this ring off and I can move ahead. I can get a podcast, a YouTube. I can work in radio. I can do the thing I've always dreamed of.
right. Yeah, and I love how you kind of tie that together too, because we've done hard things. And to kind of look back, when I was walking through my divorce, one of my life coaches said, she goes, Karen, I want you to start a book. And it's going to be called Your Book of Proof. And she goes, I want you to write down during this time the hard things that you've gotten through. So when you walk through something again, you can walk through it. And then she also had me kind of look at some past experiences of walking through. And it was like, okay, yeah, I took off that ring. It meant so much because I designed it and I thought it was pretty and, all the other things that go with it. But, remembering some of those things, but I did it. And that's the celebration. That's, and as you start a podcast, girls, when you walk through Laurie's tool, what if once you try it once, what if you went, celebrate, I just did this. I just wrote an episode of of my new podcast, and what is it going to be called? And we're going to cheer you on along the way.
Yeah. And it creates your cover art. So you can be like, look, I've already got my cover art. Look, I've got my title.
And girls, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-mm.
You can change it. I've already changed the name of the magazine because I found somebody else, in another group that had the same name. So we're calling everything the Being Brave Tour now. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. We can pivot. We can change things.
Do it messy.
We have that prerogative.
Yes. That's the best thing.
I know, isn't it? Choices.
Yes.
We have choices. And, we are filming live. And so we have the beautiful ladies listening in. And Danny is saying, wow, thank you. Now I can practice before I book Laurie for her professional services.
Yes. You go, Danny.
Yes. And Danny Green is in our debut issue. So you'll have to check that out too. And she is... I call some of these ladies who have come together as our resource mentors, my wise friends, because there's so much wisdom. And you just talking about the stories, Laurie, and it's just so amazing. I mean, I wrote some of these things down. I'm like, oh, because you said too, what if your voice wasn't too much? And I even thinking too, sometimes people think it's not enough. What do I have to offer? And some women are like, yeah, people always tell me I'm too much or whatever. What if we took that little voice and set it aside for a second and, just come and be in that space where you are that genuine self, where, you can maybe sit and smile and like, yeah, I do have this.
Yeah. And it's where you get to be too much, or it's where you get to be creative and quiet and listen and ask powerful questions. It's like, you do you. Nobody's there in that room when you're recording telling you you're too much. Like, that's the beauty of it. You keep it or you don't, but do it, because that is the you-ness that the world's waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, that is great. So as we close out, what would you like to leave the ladies with?
Leave that legacy now. Do it now. If you don't ever do a podcast, open your phone, open a recorder, either a video or recorder, and tell one story about your life. Tell one story about one of your children. Push record, tell the story, do it messy, hit stop, and leave it. And do it again tomorrow, because if you were to accidentally pass away in an accident, your family, that is more than a legacy. That is a gift, because they're not going to remember the old days. All you had was the phone recorder to hear their voice.
Yeah.
Now you can leave all these stories. When they go, who was it that said that? They go back and listen to your video. Grandma's got it. Grandma knows it. Now they've got proof, and they've got their legacy.
Wow. Wow. That's really touching me. I'm like, oh, I could be doing that, just a little recording to my granddaughter, because she's just so adorable. And oh my word, just the little bits of stories. And I think, you've reminded me so much too of diving deeper into the story, because like you said, there's a story within the story, and just because it was a divorce, maybe there was more stories within that, about learning about yourself, about setting boundaries, or learning to find what you love, or, finding who you are, all those different things. Each one of those is a story.
Yeah.
And a lesson, maybe for yourself. That's what I found. A lot of times there are lessons for me. And so, yeah, so many great things. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to make sure the ladies know before they start diving in?
Well, that free resource comes with a booking. And if you want to book a call, it's free. I'm not going to sell you. The thing that I miss is that one-on-one with gurus. Like, we order a course and we never get to talk to that person. If you want to try it out, you want to sit on the phone with me, I'll go through it with you. If you want to work with me in the bigger program, yay. If not, you've got the resource. Do it. I'll be your biggest cheerleader, because there are not enough women podcasts.
Yes. Okay, ladies, you heard that. So this is unique to the magazine, that with all of these worksheets, the women have donated their time, that you get 30 minutes or 15 minutes. They tell you how much time you get, and they will walk you through the resource. And so this is like gold. There is no other magazine out there that does this.
Exactly.
And like you said, Laurie, you are there to cheer her on. And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. So, ladies, we are cheering you on today. I cannot wait to hear what your podcast might be called. Please share it with us because we want to support you and cheer you on. And we just want to give you a big hug as we close out today. So, we'll see you next time. Bye, Laurie. Thank you.
Thank you.